I've got $20 if you can lose that check. Paula, wait!
Albany Road, directed by Christine Swanson, is a compelling road drama that is a must-watch. The film features a stellar cast, including Renée Elise Goldsberry and Lynn Whitfield. The plot centers around a New York executive, played by Goldsberry, who finds herself in an unexpected car-sharing situation with her ex-fiancé's mother, portrayed by Whitfield, due to bad weather. As these two women, initially at odds due to past grievances, navigate through their shared space, the film delves into themes of forgiveness, understanding, and the complexities of familial relationships. We sat down with director Christine Swanson to discuss the making of this award-winning film. So, well, let's start from the beginning. You are both the writer and the director of the film. So that's double duty.
Yes.
Can you tell me how you came up with the idea initially?
Yeah. So many years ago, I did a movie called All About You, almost 25 years ago, and it starred Renée Elise Goldsberry. It was her first feature film, and Debbie Allen was also in the movie. And I saw the two of them interacting together, and like it just, I saw a snapshot of a photo, like, remember that, because their dynamics with like two intergenerational women, I just thought I've never seen that, like Black women, right? So I just mined that away in my brain. And then much later in life, my husband's mom passed away from breast cancer. And just dealing with her illness was a surprise because there's a lot about her health that she didn't convey to us. And just going along the journey of someone experiencing illness and feeling as if they had to hide it. Like there was a level of shame to it that really struck me. And I just remembered that. And I just wanted to infuse that in storytelling in a way where if someone feels shame about something that is so dire, how do we grapple with that as family members? And what do we do when we're faced with obstacles that we don't know how to overcome? And so I like the idea of that. And I like the idea of like two intergenerational women going on a road trip together. And I thought, what if it's in a snowstorm, right?
Oh.
So,
Yes.
this was my attempt at, I say it's Thelma and Louise meets Terms of Endearment meets Fargo.
Oh, that's
And
awesome. That's a great
so it's
description
like
of
a
it.
journey with lots of ups and downs. And the irony of all of that is actually a comedy.
Yes, yes. And that's one thing I noticed about it too. But it's honestly, it's a mix of everything. I got a chance to watch it, so thank you for sharing it with me. I had a whirlwind of emotions, really. I laughed and I cried, and I really felt for the characters
Yes.
and their journey. And I love how you could actually witness the transition, the growth of the characters. So they start
That's
at
right.
one point, and by
That's
the
right.
end of the movie, they are like totally at a different point, right? Better and stronger. And even though I'm not gonna, of course, spoil the ending, but even though they had to go through this process, but definitely healing came from it. So
Absolutely.
definitely beautifully done. Your husband is a producer on the film.
Yes. Yes.
Can you talk to me about how has it been working with your husband?
So my husband is Michael Swanson, and he's actually a studio executive. That's his day job. And before he was a studio executive, we made several independent films, several short films, and we just always did it together. And he had the natural propensity to be organized and can work a budget, and that made him the producer. And then I was the creative and I was the writer director, and we just forged a partnership, and our company is called Faith Filmworks, and we started it in 1997 before children. We have 4 children now, with the goal of creating consequential content with moral resonance. And those are kind of stories that we like to grapple with, and we love interacting with audiences. Like we make what we do for audiences to have a communal experience. I specifically made this movie to go into theaters, even though seemingly we're living in an age of streaming. But this is the type of movie when you watch it with other people and they're experiencing the journey that our characters are taking, and everybody's experiencing it at the same time, the response factor is just through the roof. And like sometimes with more colorful audiences, they're talking at the screen. And it's just such an energetic experience of sitting there and watching people absorb this journey and choosing to go on the ride. And then at the end, you can tell that there's this deep sense of relief, satisfaction, and yearning about the questions that were posed in the story. So just watching the transformation of the audience is as equally exhilarating as watching the movie itself.
Let's talk your brilliant cast.
Okay.
You have the Emmy-winning, legendary Lynn Whitfield in the
Yes.
film.
Mhm.
How did she get on board? How did you?
It's through the casting process, I was able to meet Lynn and talk with her on FaceTime initially. And I wasn't sure, like the Lynn Whitfield of Greenleaf could be Paula. So this is what's helpful, like to me as a director, is actually meeting actors, because it's one thing for them to play a role. It's another thing for you to come into contact with the real instrument. And once I came into contact with the real instrument that is Lynn Whitfield, I knew right away, I'm like, oh my goodness, she's gonna do something special, and I can't wait to get to it. So we knew right away that Lynn would be awesome, and Lynn came on board. It's not like I want Lynn and we got her. It's Lynn connected with the storytelling, and she was like, "This is something that I want to try," and the rest will be history.
She was brilliant in it. I mean, she is
Brilliant.
brilliant. All, in general, her role was just fantastic. I loved her in it. What about the rest of the cast? The main
Okay,
cast.
so the lead actress is Renée Elise
Yes.
Goldsberry, Tony winner, Grammy winner from Hamilton, the musical, and so many other great projects. But Renée starred in my first feature film called All About You, now almost 25 years ago. And that's where I first met Renée. And when I was casting for the lead for that movie, I probably saw over like 200 women. And like for some reason nobody was speaking to me, and I couldn't figure out, like, oh my goodness, are we going to find the lead actress? And then Renée walked through the door. She didn't even say a word. I was like, that's her. And then the folklore is, I looked to the left and said to my husband, boy, I hope she can act. So she just had that quality. Renée has always had that it factor since the day that I met her, since the day that she walked through that door. And
20 plus years ago.
I knew she was a star.
Mm.
And the world caught up to me
Absolutely.
years later. And you see, if you've ever seen Hamilton, like, I mean, she's a literal rock star, So when I came up with the idea for Albany Road, I wrote it with 30-year-old Renée in mind. So the script has been the story's been like percolating for over 20 years. But within the last 10 years, I actually wrote it still with the 30-something Renée in mind, 30-something-year-old Renée in mind. And then as time would have it, fast forward, now we're dealing with the 50-something-year-old Renée. And I was like, I still think you should do this. And she was like, I don't know, like, because it was written for a younger person. But as you saw Renée embodying this role, like,
Absolutely.
she's sublime. We were also able to work with I would say this new leading man named J. Alphonse
Oh,
Nicholson.
yes. Talk to me
And
about it.
he's a star from P Valley. And I directed him in an episode of P Valley, and I looked at this guy and I was like, he's a movie star and he doesn't even know it yet. And he, to me, reminds me of a young Marlon Brando.
Oh,
And to see
interesting.
that kind of talent with a young Black actor like that really excited me. and I knew I was gonna put him in a movie one day. I didn't know that it was gonna be this movie, but turns out it was this movie. And what he does on the screen in this movie, playing opposite Renée Goldsberry, is something we have never seen, and it will be cemented in our memories in perpetuity. So it was wonderful to work with him, and then Lisa Arundel, who we know from a lot of movies a while back, and now she's coming back on screen with a vengeance, and she just is
Oh,
so
yeah, I love
lovable.
her character too.
Isn't
Yes,
she
yes, yes,
wonderful?
she
So
is. Yes,
just have, and then Joe Holt, who plays Billy,
yes.
and then Rachel Nix, who plays Morgan. So we have a truly great ensemble cast that interact with each other in the most hilarious ways and in the most emotional ways. And you combine like humor and pathos. It's the mark of a really potentially satisfying story. So I think on that level, Albany Road delivers for everybody, for women and men. I have a lot of men who come up to me after the screening, and they are thanking me for this story because they were so emotionally affected, and they didn't expect to be pulled in to this story in this way. So it's a movie for all audiences, no matter what color.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about a little bit more about the film and the symbolism that
Mhm.
I noticed, and I'm sure everyone else did.
Mhm.
The baby deer.
Yeah.
Can I say that? I think I can. Um, was that something you initially had in mind as well to kind of connect the story together? And why did you
So
decide to use it or
be,
actually use it?
because filmmaking is a visual medium that has room for symbolism and poetic imagery. So what I wanted to do with this story was to use gleaming details or symbols to amplify the overall theme of the storytelling. So I didn't want it to be just talky, A, B, C, D. It's very cookie cutter type of approach of filmmaking. I just really wanted to let the story breathe and use imagery as a way, again, to amplify like deep emotions. So one way I thought of doing that was using a symbol of a specific animal that comes across the storytelling multiple times. And in using that in the way that it's done in this film, when we see that animal multiple times, what I've done is I've planted an idea. And as these characters go through the journey and the story unfolds, we start to learn what the meaning of that symbol is. And what happens when audiences, this is because they're smart, like you don't have to spoon feed them things. But when they start to connect with the symbolism, now we're working on deeper layers of our humanity and our emotions. And that is why we start to connect to the storytelling, because it's working on multiple visceral levels.
Awesome, because it did connect the dots for me. I kind of
Mhm.
noticed that thread.
Yeah.
How do you film in a snowstorm? How was that process like? I watched it and I was very curious.
First of all, we shot in Champaign, Illinois.
Mm.
So
Oh, okay.
we purposely went to a location that snows in February. Secondly, we froze practically doing it, but we shot 23 days. So we knew that we wouldn't have to be in the element like forever. And everybody just sucked it up and went for it. And this is what independent filmmaking is. There's no pampering, there's no delay because of snow and weather. It's you just muscle through it and do the work. So we purposely picked a location that was cold so that the weather can show up on screen. And Illinois delivered.
I was curious about that. So,
Mhm.
well, with indie filmmaking, I'm curious with the Okay, so you said you worked on it, well, with all the elements coming together about 30 years or so, right? Little by
I
little,
would say
but the
over
last
20.
10 years,
Yes,
over
yes,
20 years.
yes, yes.
So this question may be a little bit more technical, but I'm just curious, as an indie filmmaker, um, how do you I- how do you come to uh, someone and kind of, I don't want to use the word, but sell them the
Mhm.
idea of making this film that's been in your head all
Sure.
these years? How do you convince them that's something that is going to work?
Well, this is a story that I shopped around Hollywood for 10 years and nobody bit.
Mm,
And after a while, it's particularly as we see the implosion of Hollywood in terms of the lack of imagination and storytelling.
mm,
We don't see movies like this, especially movies like this with Black characters, right? So it was for some reason a hard sell. And after a while, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So if they're not going to finance it, my husband and I decided to 100% finance it ourselves.
mhm,
So because we 100% financed it ourselves, we made the movie we wanted to make. And we didn't have to ask permission, nor did we have to make compromises that we didn't want to make. So that's how we did it.
mhm. Yeah, I hear it a lot of these stories with indie filmmakers too. The problem with studios not wanting to make the movie, and now you have to come up with all the finances, and it's great that you are able to kind of use your own to bring it to fruition. So there is no plans of putting it in streaming after the
Well,
theatrical
absolutely,
release.
absolutely. So after the theatrical release,
Mm-hmm.
it will probably show up on a streamer maybe first or second quarter of next year.
Got
But
it. And
I
you
wouldn't
already
wait.
have something set up. You probably can't talk about it, but there's already a
It,
plan.
it'll come out because
Okay.
that's the lifespan of a movie. After
Mm-hmm.
a theatrical release, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see it on video on demand.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see
Yeah.
it on streamers. You'll see it, when you're on the airplane and you can
Yes,
choose.
yes, yes.
Yes. So that's the life that movies will have after the initial release. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, we want to make it available for everybody worldwide.
As a director and a writer of the film, you obviously had an initial idea and thoughts on paper. Did it come to fruition? Was it everything and more of what you
Mhm.
wanted it to be? Mm-hmm.
So pretty much everything you see on the screen was everything that was on the page,
Mm.
short of some dialogue changes. So, in hindsight, I look at the movie that I wrote, and I really think what we ended up with is even better than what I
Mm.
initially wrote. And this is a movie that has a whole Aretha Franklin soundtrack
Yes.
on it as well. And when I wrote the script, I wrote it with those specific songs in mind. So to see it come from my mind to the screen, the way I saw it, the way I heard it, and the way I felt it, uh, it's to me a dream come true on many levels. But it's so satisfying as a filmmaker that, oh my gosh, it worked. And sometimes it's like that. You're like, thank you, Lord Jesus. It worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And for that alone, the fact that we were able to finish this and it became the vision that I had hoped for is a win.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can connect with it, that's the end result. Like that is not my business. I
Mm-hmm.
can talk about it, I can promote it, but the experiences that people have with the movie is not my business, but I sure love peeking in on their reactions.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So no reshoots, no rewrites.
No, no
Okay.
rewrites at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
And then the reshooting, we did one pickup day of very inconsequential like inserts. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We did
Mm-hmm.
mostly inserts. But no, no. Listen, this is a low budget independent film, but it doesn't look like it
No, it
because
doesn't. Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time. So the goal was to make a lower budgeted movie feel like a huge Hollywood film.
Yes.
And we believe we accomplished that. We
Yes.
believe the performances that Renée Goldsberry and Lynn Whitfield give are awards level.
Absolutely. They are how they say it. They are the duo we didn't know we needed. They're just great
right.
together.
I love that. I'm going to quote you.
Yes, please do. I'll make
They're
sure
the
to have it in our article too.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it. I love it. So that's what we want to give. I think this is a holiday season movie that nobody should miss.
That's right. That's right.